Hey guys and girls, my name is Alan and welcome to today's news drop episode. So as you can tell from the title of the video, today I'm going to be covering patch notes 1.09 for Mass Effect Andromeda. Now I'm going to start off by giving you a cursory glance of the single player notes, and then I want to move on to the multiplayer notes because that's what we're all here for. These are on the BioWare blog. I will link the articles into the description if you want to read it yourself, but I'm just going to read it off the screen as I always do. I'm just going to record it off the screen, talk through it, give you my thoughts and opinions, talk about what's changed, what's good, what's bad, what's awful, and what's just ridiculous. Okay, so starting off, I guess I should explain why it's taken me so long to record these patch notes. Well, I've been watching a bit of Wimbledon and have been busy with work, so I guess those are two minor reasons. But the main reason is I've been very annoyed with BioWare because of this patch. And I don't want to go into a rant here because this is not what this channel is all about. This is not what the video is all about. But I've been very annoyed, so I had no motivation to talk about it. That's how annoyed I've been. I guess you can read in between the lines of how annoyed I've been because of that. Now, if you've been watching some of my videos on AcornVision Gaming, then you'll have a sense of already what I'm thinking. Head over there if you want to hear like an unedited version of what my thoughts are, which quite honestly, I couldn't really say on this channel because there's just too many swear words to bleep out. But the summary version is I'm not impressed. Right, so let's just get on with things, and I'll talk about it as we get to the stages. So as I said, starting off with single player, so it's just mostly bug fixes. Some missions weren't triggering properly, some missions weren't executing properly, even if you follow the guidelines, blah, blah, blah. So some spoilers in here, read at your own risk. I haven't yet completed the campaign yet. I've had no motivation to complete the campaign, and ever since this patch dropped, I've loaded Andromeda once in the past week, and that was on the day that the patch dropped, and then after that I haven't touched it since. Right, so moving on to multiplayer. Front and center, as you can see, there is a new character. He's called the Batarian Scrapper. He's a rare tier card, so he's gold, and his powers include Snap Freeze, which returns from ME3. I haven't unlocked him yet, so I can't say whether it's good or bad or the same or whatever, but Snap Freeze does return. I did like that power in ME3, so I'm happy to see it come back. His other power includes Concussive Shot, and then the final power is Flat Cannon. Now, Flat Cannon and Concussive Shot, obviously, they're recycled powers. Flat Cannon's actually been, well, it was buffed in 1.06, so it's quite good now. And I don't think they've nerfed it, but they probably will at some point because it is pretty damn good. And Concussive Shot is, well, Concussive Shot. Now, the powers work well together because at sort of mid to long range, you've got Flat Cannon, which controls like groups of enemies. And then you've got at close range, you've got Snap Freeze, which I believe also debuffs as well. I mean, it did in ME3, so I assume it would do so here as well. So you can snap freeze, well, you can flash freeze, sorry, unprotected enemies, like red bar enemies, and then obviously you can detonate with Concussive Shot. And also, a lot of people were happy to see his return. He's got his wind-up punch. So the Batarian Gauntlet does feature as a specific melee. And another bonus is that if you punch an enemy that you've set up for an explosion, so if you prime them with ammo or if you've snap freeze them, if you punch them, you set off a combo because of that. I mean, it's fun in principle, but the wind up time on the punch is quite slow, so the chances are someone else would have already taken the kill, or well, an enemy might have put you out of motion, obviously, stagger you before you manage to complete the action. So haven't tried it out myself, but those are his powers and that's what he does. Okay, so moving on. They have now introduced Platinum Mode. This and the character were teased was earlier in the week. Well, 2 weeks ago now. But both of them have now been introduced. Platinum is basically just a higher difficulty. I think it's a bit more of a jump though. In Platinum in ME3 was a continuation, I guess, of going on from Gold to Platinum, so the next challenge, but with more enemies, different types of, well, mixed enemies and obviously harder enemies. Platinum, they've made a few changes here and there, and it's, in my opinion, a bigger step up from Gold to Platinum. So if you're looking for just a bit more of a challenge, then Platinum might be too far of a challenge for some people. If you're looking for something different, then yeah, I guess Platinum is something different. I have played 1 or 2 matches on the day that I said that the patch came out, and it's okay. I mean, it's not immensely fun. There's some other changes I've made which are very questionable, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. But on the whole, I mean, it's nice to have a new difficulty, and some of the new enemies, I guess, kind of interesting, but frustrating at the same time. But yeah, it's not as easy to break into Platinum this time round as it was in ME3, in my opinion. But they've made some changes, as I said, which have also made it harder, but they've also introduced some new content, which, well, new inverted commas, that could probably help you on Platinum and, of course, on lower difficulties as well. To quote, help players survive on this new higher difficulty, they've added veteran bonus ranks to all characters. Now, you might have seen it appear already in the menus. Veteran bonus rank is basically an additional 10 ranks that character can attain. So every common, uncommon, rare, and ultra rare character can now go up to level XX, which is level 20. That's just insane from the off, right? So there's that many more cards to now unlock. As if the pool wasn't bloated enough, they've added all those character cards. Granted, characters on XX can absolutely destroy lower levels. So bronze is a joke now with XX characters. Silver's becoming the new bronze. And as people start maxing out gold level characters to XX, gold is now a lot easier than it was before. So I guess if you only play those 3 difficulties, and that's great for you. If you play platinum, I mean, obviously these bonuses help towards platinum as well, but less so in platinum than it does in obviously the other ranks. So if it wasn't bad enough they added that many extra character cards, they also added new variants of uncommon, rare, and ultra rare weapons. So in patch 1.08, was it? They added the S versions. I'm not too sure what impression they got when they released that patch, but evidently this was always on the way. This addition of cards for uncommon, rare, and ultra rare weapons was always on the way, but they must have gained some sort of insight into the reaction of bringing those S versions in, and yet they still decide to go ahead with this patch. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but from what I've seen feedback wise, this patch has gone down like a smack in the face. Not very many people have been impressed. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be 1 or 2 people out there who love the grind and, you know, love the game and will lap up everything that BioWare spits out. But I mean, I've come from ME3, so I'm not a stranger to having to grind a lot to get, content unlocked and, to get it to a decent level. But this is just all kinds of ridiculous at the moment. Anyway, as I said, this is not the place to rant about this stuff. I'll talk about more my personal thoughts and feelings on AcornVision Gaming. For now, let's just get down to the rest of the list. Right, so you might be wondering what these new versions are. And as you can see on the screen, the versions are listed as Bulwark, Siphon, and Concussive. Now, Bulwark weapons increase your damage resistance when you're close to teammates. In pubs, I don't know how often that's going to be useful because everyone spreads out and runs all over the place. Siphon weapons replenish your health as you deal damage. On paper that sounds great, but in reality, the damage that you deal in order to regen health isn't as much health as you would like. So, I mean, it's nice, but it's not going to keep you alive and platinum or anything like that. Concussive weapons create a bite explosion when you kill an enemy by hitting them in the weak point spot. Again, on paper it sounds great. In actuality, the explosion range is quite small, so how much damage you deal to nearby enemies to the ones you just killed, I don't know, questionable. I've already talked about the Batarian Scrapper, so I won't talk about him anyway. No, tell a lie, I will continue talking about him because I assumed, and quite a few other people assumed, that he would have come along with Aquarian DLC. Turns out he was a stowaway on one of the ships or something. He made some deals, and that's how he got himself all the way to the Andromeda Galaxy. I don't know. I mean, it's plausible, I guess, but it just puts a massive question mark now on whether we are going to get any future DLC content regarding Quarians and other ships and other races. So, very disappointing to hear that's how he got to Andromeda, but obviously he's a new character. Yeah, try him out and let me know what you think if you've already got him. As I said, I still need to unlock him because of the mountain of cards I now need to get through before I can get to him. This next bit, they talk about the changes they've made to objective waves. You've probably already experienced it for yourself, but enemies can now interrupt hack. I have no idea what they were thinking when they did this. Uploads, when you leave the area, for example, if there's an enemy there, you have to get away so that they can chase you or something. The depletion rate of those upload zones have decreased slightly, so they won't drop down to 0 as quickly as they did before. A lot of people were complaining that obviously that was an issue because you have to leave because enemies are there, but suddenly you have to restart your progress again, and then enemies return and so on and so forth. So that's a good change. But somewhere along the line, they interpreted that as, yeah, we want that implemented into hacks as well. No, we didn't. But now that is a thing. So enemies in the hack circle disrupt it. It's been a nightmare. People are still adjusting to it, but I think it's just an awful decision and just changes the way that people play the hack. I mean, that's been there since ME3. We've all played it the same, and it's just, we know what we're doing. And now it's just awful. I genuinely don't know who made that decision. Terrible decision. Assassination waves have been replaced with, quote, boss waves. Basically, they just feature special enemies which have a different nameplate, more HP, and are even more resistant to Cobra RPGs because, again, that's something we thought was way too powerful. RPGs, yeah, they do so much damage. So basically, these bosses, inverted commas, are just like the Krogan Berserker, that's an example. A few of the other hardened enemies just with purple nameplate, and they have more health and are even more resistant to Cobra RPGs. Not that RPGs really did anything before this point, so again, not too sure what the thinking was for that. So there's been a few minor fixes here and there since the patch dropped, because there have been some bugs, obviously. I mean, when did BioWare release a patch and not introduce a crap ton of bugs with the stuff they introduced, obviously? So apparently the Siphon variant weapons didn't increase the heal value as they went up in rank. So rank 1 did the same as rank X. Kind of the sort of thing you'd think they'd test before they release the content, but go figure. So that now does rank up, even though the difference between rank X and rank 1 and rank X doesn't actually make too much of a difference. All that grinding for nothing. So Platinum difficulty added, already talked about it. Batarian Scrapper, already talked about him. Apparently there's a new skin tone slider. If you care about customization, it was funny though. Some of the characters in my list, their faces were just ridiculous colors because something went wrong as the update was applied, or at least it wasn't set to default, or you had to reset it or something. But some of them had really pale faces, some of them had really dark faces, and it was kind of funny, if nothing else, but pointless to me because I don't mess around with that sort of stuff. Already talked about veteran bonus at the start. As I said, increased power, increased combo damage, increased melee damage for all characters. There are now 2 daily challenges and new types of challenges. So if you care about completing challenges, then good for you. The 2 daily challenges are really nice because they give you 30 mission funds per challenge completed, and they're usually quite easy, like 14 waves on a certain map, maybe 14 waves on a certain difficulty, X amount of points versus a certain enemy. So very doable. You can probably get them done within 2-3 matches tops. So those are quite good, especially now they've added new stuff to the store, and I will talk more about this later. It's funny because I was talking about this in a previous video, saying that I assumed that they would add more stuff at some point, stuff that you'd really want to buy. So I personally was conserving my mission fund spending, and now that they've introduced all the new stuff, I'm actually glad that I did save up. So going forward, I can actually buy stuff that I actually care about now. The store rotates weekly as it's always done. It's just that there's now more items, and again, I will cover this towards the end of the video. Right, and another thing is that characters can now be renamed in the customization options. You could always rename them in the app, but you couldn't rename them in the game, which I thought was really stupid. But now you can rename them, in both. A feature that should have been there from the start, but better late than never, I suppose. So along with the Batarian Scrapper, they've also added 1 new weapon, the Kishok Harpoon Gun. If you played ME3, you'll recognize the name, you'll recognize the gun. It's the exact same principle. Basically, it's a single shot, I guess, rifle, and basically it fires a harpoon, as the name suggests. It sticks to the enemy and it causes bleed out damage over time. Now, in ME3, it was sort of a niche weapon. It was gold back then, but I believe it's ultra rare now. I sort of messed around with it in ME3. It was kind of fun-ish to use in certain circumstances, but would I class it as an ultra rare? No. But it's a single shot, does quite a lot of damage, and as I said, it does bleed damage as well. In ME3, you could charge up the weapon, and if you hit an enemy, such as an unprotected enemy, you could pin them to the wall, which was quite fun. I don't know if it's still a charge-based weapon, and I don't know if you can still pin enemies to the walls, but I have heard it doesn't work exactly the same, so there's probably a few features that are missing from this weapon. But out of all the guns they could have brought back to MEA from ME3, this would not have been my first choice. However, this is probably to do with the fact they brought in the Batarian, and obviously the Kishok is a Batarian weapon. Fortunately, they've only made Bulwark, Siphon, and Concussive variants for certain number of uncommon, rare, and ultra rare weapons. It's still a ridiculous amount of them, but it's not all of them, thankfully. It's about, 75% or something, so it's still really stupid. So, along with the additional 10 cards for every single character in the game, you now have 30 cards for every single weapon that has these versions, because each of these versions goes up to level 10. So the Bulwark, the Siphon, the Concussive, 10 levels for each. So you've got 30 of these new cards in addition to the 10. So you've got 40 individual cards for each of these versions that have these variants, as well as the original variant as well. So you can see why I'm not best impressed so far with this patch, along with a lot of other people. Right, so I better get a shuffle on if I want to get this video done in one part. So assault rifles, Avenger S, damage goes up. Haven't used it, don't think I'll ever use it. Falcon, damage goes up. Have used it a couple of times. Don't think I'll be using it even if with this buff. I mean, it's nice to have the extra radius damage and extra damage in general, but it's such a niche weapon. In ME3, it was good for staggering enemies such as the Phantom. In this game, there are no enemies like the Phantom, and enemies seldom do get staggered anyway, so what's the point? And there's better powers and ways of doing it. Poor damage increase, very good, happy to see that, but with all these new ultra rares thrown into the pool now, who knows when I want to rank up my poor to a decent level. Pistols and SMGs, Charger S, damage goes up. I've got the Hurricane, this is a moot point to me. Sidewinder, reload speed is good. It's basically half now, which is crazy fast, and ammo total has gone up. Only problem is 75 rounds is still not enough considering how many bullets an enemy is likely to absorb, so you'll probably be hitting ammo dumps on the regular, and if you're going to be doing it anyway, there are other better weapons to use such as the Hurricanes. So Eagle, another buff, so clip size has gone up slightly and reserve ammo has also gone up slightly, which I guess is good. I don't have one yet, so I can't say if it's good or bad weapon. Scorpion, damage has gone up quite a fair bit. They probably realised people weren't using it. I've probably used it a handful of times, if that, just to mess around with it. It's not a bad weapon, but again, given the way the game is, it's just not a particularly useful weapon, especially considering the ammo count is so low. And as I said, enemies take so much more to kill. Equalizer, very annoyed. Mine was at IX, almost at level X. And then now they added all these other cards, and I don't know when I'm going to max it out, but again, I've got the Hurricane now, so I suppose I could live without it. But it's nice to see the damage has gone up because I do like that weapon. Shotguns, so the scatter shot damage has been increased slightly. Again, the weapon's got potential, but I just don't know if it does enough damage. I mean, even with the buff, I don't know if it does enough damage to justify using it over some of the others. So yeah, I mean, it's good to have extra damage, but who knows. Rigger Carbine, haven't got it yet. I genuinely don't know if I'm ever going to get it at this point, given how many cards there are now in the gold pool. It's just ridiculous. I haven't even had a chance to test it out yet, so I can't even tell you firsthand how much difference this damage increase is going to do. But again, more is always good. Sniper rifles, Viper S, damage is increased. Never going to use it, moot point. Indra, this one really annoyed me. In a previous video, I did talk about the fact that I was looking forward to ranking it to X to see if it did more damage than the Raptor. I ranked it to X, it didn't do more damage than the Raptor, but it had the benefit of having more ammo, so that's why I used it. They have now decreased that damage. I have now no reason to use it because I can go back to the Raptor and it does more damage. The only thing is I need to hit ammo dumps a bit more often. But that's an inconvenience I can live with if it does more damage. So I genuinely don't understand what the thinking is behind this, because the Indra is a gold tier. It is meant to be better than an uncommon tier weapon. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. Black Widow, damage has been increased. Good. It was a little bit weak from what I've heard. I don't have it. I'm only speaking about stuff that I've heard, but this increase in damage is good, and obviously the weak spot multiplier as well. That's a good change. I can't speak about the Naladin because I don't have it yet, but apparently something's been changed in terms of the ratio. I mean, if you know more about it, let me know in the comment section below, but I'm not too familiar with how this weapon works. As I said, I don't have it yet. Don't know if I'm ever going to get it at this point. The Shadow, it's funny because a lot of people were saying it's a really good weapon, and as I started using it more, I did appreciate it more. So it seems that BioWare have cottoned on and nerfed its recharge time a little bit. So you have to wait a little bit longer before you can go on to another target. But it's something you can put up with because it's sort of a weapon that you hang back a bit with anyway. Mods, they've added a new mod that allows you to get better accuracy on pistols and assault rifles without using a scope. In principle, I do really like this. I haven't tried it yet because I haven't got any of them yet. But it did kind of bug me having to put on a scope just to get a smaller bloom on weapon accuracy. But this is obviously good for that. Right, so moving on to powers. First off, concussive shot. So they've basically buffed it across the board. It was quite a good power before, so I mean, I guess this is going to make it better. A lot of my characters were reset because of it, and you probably saw it as well. Flamethrower, damage has been increased slightly. It's still not as potent as it was in ME3, but again, any increase in damage is welcome. Frag grenades, I didn't think these needed a buff, but maybe people weren't using them enough, so radius has been increased, and shrapnel evolution damage has been increased from 65 to 100, which is more in line with things like flat cannon. Tech powers, so the assault turret has various changes, as you can see there. I don't use the assault turret that much. I mean, these boosts will always be good, but I just don't know if it's worth speccing fully given what you get compared to if you were to spec another power fully. But if you do use it, Omni-Link radius has been increased. Bullet damage has gone up from cryo ammo. Flamethrower, again, does more damage here as well. But again, I don't think the turret does as much damage in MEA as it is in ME3, which is probably one of the reasons why I don't use it. Fortify, apparently there was a bug that stopped the stats that they were supposed to give kicking in, so that's now been changed. Tactical Cloak and Stealth Grid, melee damage has been increased slightly, and also the bonus window damage has been increased slightly. This one here, Tactical Cloak Escape Artist, you were meant to get a couple of seconds of cloak when you killed an enemy with melee. That never occurred before. It does occur now. I've seen that for myself, and it's quite cool to see it in action. Remnant VI, it's funny because this was buffed. I think was it 1.07 or something, and obviously they think they've over buffed it, so now they've had to nerf it slightly. It's quite good, the Remnant VI. I think it does a lot of damage, and it sort of helps you out if you've got a team that set off explosions and stuff, because obviously you can prime or you can detonate depending on how you spec it, so that's quite cool. This accounts for the other thing that reset all my characters into this Apex training. So apparently rank 5 aerial combat is now special combat training, so which adds more combo damage. Moving on to biotics, so Lance damage base increase slightly, I'm glad to hear that. Aim assist very marginally increased as well, which is good. Nova, as you can see, rank 5 and 6 bonus damage has increased. Again, it's good to see. I mean, I don't use Nova that much, and I don't know if this is going to make too much of a difference to how I play it, but again, extra damage is always welcome. Shockwave, again, another buff, slight increase in damage, always welcome. Singularity, I did see a couple of players doing really well with Singularity, now I know why. So, rank 3 damage per second has been increased, and the explosion damage has doubled, basically. So, Singularity, quite potent now, and I've seen it in action for myself, so I can attest to that. And especially now you can get characters to rank XX, the extra power damage will definitely help with things like this. Throw, the bug that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, rank 6B, the one that was supposed to increase combo detonation damage was bugged. That's now been fixed. I'm glad because I really wanted that. That's the evolution I wanted. I mean, I had double throw for some of my characters because I knew it was bugged, 6B. But 6B is the one I wanted because that's what I want to do with my throws, is set off combos and set off explosions and stuff like that. And Annihilation, I've seen this bug plenty of times. It's effectively plenty. After getting down, for example, you reactivate Annihilation Field, but Annihilation Field doesn't take effect on enemies until a good few seconds after the fact, even though the visuals are on the screen, which is really annoying and obviously caught me out a few times. That apparently has been fixed, but I've used the character since, and it might not be 5 seconds anymore, but it's still a couple of seconds after you activate it before enemies are affected. So they've made the window smaller, but the problem is still there. It's not immediate like it was in ME3 with Annihilation Field on the N7 Fury, for example. Moving on to enemies. Now this is quite a big change. Now it says in most cases Ascendants, Fiends and Hydra sync kills are no longer fatal, i.e. you don't get killed for the round. I think I've experienced this. I was picked up by an Ascendant, but I don't know if I was down because another enemy was shooting at me or I was just down because that's how he put me down. But apparently some cases you can get revived after being sync killed. Now the reason why they made this change was because they couldn't take out the fact that sometimes these bosses teleported because of the way that the game works, and players were just picked up and sync killed and they couldn't react because of the teleportation. They couldn't fix it, so the only other option they can do is to make it so that these sync kills weren't permadeaths, so you can get revived. But as it says there, this only occurs in most cases, so there will still be a number of times where you get picked up, sync killed, and you can't get revived. So it's a shame because, I mean, my mindset towards bosses has sort of changed now. Knowing that they can't sync kill me, I'm playing a lot more risky. But that takes some of the threat out of the game, knowing that these bosses potentially can't even kill you permanently. However, I have seen and heard people getting sync killed and permanently dying, so it can still happen. And knowing my luck, I'll probably still get lumbered with all the BS sync kills, so treat it how you will. But as I said, the mentality is it has changed something slightly, so I don't treat them as much of a threat as I used to. Alright, so some other significant changes, as I said at the start, includes changes to the objectives. So apparently objectives change based on the difficulty level, so you get more time on lower difficulties, less time on higher difficulties, and progress will also take longer on higher difficulties versus lower difficulties. Devices, you used to have 5 minutes to deal with 4 beacons, but now it's 45 seconds per beacon. However, this 45 seconds has been questioned because a lot of people are seeing it as less than 45 seconds. So I don't know if this is a bug or this is intentional given the difficulty, but I'm not a fan of this change because if a boss happens to be camping on the beacon and you can't kill them in time because cobras do absolutely nothing, or if you want to clear it out but you can't do so, so you have to kite them away. By the time you get back, there is not enough time to deactivate it. So they need to tweak this or revert it back. I mean, it was a change that wasn't really required, so again, I'm not really sure why they made it. The upload change is welcome because, as I said, the fact that enemies could interrupt it and as soon as you leave, just dwindling down to 0. I talked about hacks at the beginning of the video. I have no idea why they made this change. I'm hoping they're going to change it back. I mean, enough people have raged about it, but whether or not they listen to us is another thing. Already talked about assassination at the start of the video. I don't know why they've mentioned it twice, all this stuff. It seems like a repeat of the start of the video, but bosses are now the targets rather than just random enemies, and they're harder to take out and are even more resistant to RPGs, which is just fantastic. And finally, equipment. So the Juggernaut Shield, again, this is something they nerfed and then now they've buffed. I don't understand what these guys are doing. I really don't. So it's gone from 10 to 20, which is good. It's welcome. But to put it into context, the Asari Adept has about 300 shields. So 20% of that is like 60 extra points, which is about 1 bullet, if that, from an enemy. So in a similar sort of vein, the shield enhancer has also been increased. So the bonus is now 30% extra shields. I believe it was 20 before. I'm not too sure. I might be wrong on that, but 30 is better than whatever it was before anyway. The problem with shields in MEA is that they aren't as high in terms of numbers compared to ME3. So while the percentage might look decent, the actual value that you're getting isn't great. And that's the problem they need to sort of adjust going forward. As of speaking, there are several new pieces of equipment in the store and they will continue to rotate every week. They've added 3. Well, they did add 3 and they'll add 3 more every week as far as I know. They're just going to a rotation, so you'd have to just buy them one at a time, which is good. Revive pack transmitter. So previously, it would basically just revive yourself and nearby allies, or vice versa if they were using it. It now also duplicates the effects of first aid packs and ammo packs to allies within 10 meters. And apparently it increases the radius of Cobra RPGs by 50%, but 50% radius on something that doesn't do a lot of damage isn't great, but I suppose more is better than nothing. And then finally, damage from Cobra missiles modified to be more consistent among enemy types. A consequence of this change is that they no longer deal extra damage to enemy weak points. So I don't know if you tried to RPG any destroyers of late, but when they open up their stomach to fire the reactor shot, doesn't kill them in one hit anymore. And I believe this occurs on silver upwards. Bronze, I think you could usually one hit them anyway, but silver upwards, destroyers are no longer a one hit kill when they open their stomachs. So it's been just mad, some of the matches that I've played. On Platinum in particular, you can hit a destroyer with about 5 RPGs and it'll still be standing. I'm not even exaggerating that, which is mental. So I don't agree with a lot of these changes. A lot of people have already voiced their opinions. As I said, I've had to just take a week off from playing the game because I've just not been impressed whatsoever. And going forwards, I hope they're listening and I hope they're going to make some reverse changes and stuff. But if they don't, then this game is going to drop off even quicker than it did before. And that's just my personal opinion. Do let me know in the comment section below if you feel any different or if you've got any thoughts you'd like to share regarding any of the changes I've talked about today. Just before I round off, there's just 1 or 2 other things that I'm going to show you, screenshots from the game. So as you can see, the first picture is of the new character, the Batarian Scrapper. I've already talked about his powers, but that's what he looks like in case you've not seen him in match yet, or if you've never seen what Batarian looks like from the previous games, that's what Batarian looks like. Moving on to the next image. So as you can see, you can actually buy ultra rare characters with mission funds. So this is one of the new things that you can spend your mission funds on, along with mods and other character cards as well. Now, as you can see from the timer, this was taken sometime last week, so this is due to expire now. In fact, by the time that this video goes up, there will be a new set of things to buy within the store. I don't know what they'll be because I haven't checked multiplayer yet, but the 3 pieces of equipment that you see at the top, Warfighter and Commando package and Mental Focus. So I've already bought those now using mission funds, and that'll feature in my next pack opening video whenever I get around to doing it. Again, that will be posted on AcornVision Gaming. But there's going to be some other stuff in the store, so characters and weapons probably will rotate between them, and obviously the rarities as well. The next screen is, as you can see, the Platinum difficulty badge, and obviously that is one of the missions that was featured last week. I think I did complete it, and if I did, that might be my next gameplay commentary on AcornVision Gaming. And in that video, I'll probably talk about my thoughts and feelings on Platinum specifically, and also the changes, and you can see them on the screen at the same time, obviously, when I play out the match. The next screen, as you can see, these are the uncommon versions of the new variants that have been introduced. This is just one page. There are several more pages after this. Gold tier, exactly the same, several more pages after. And I can't believe that they've done it for ultra rares as well. It's just mental. So the chances of you getting something that you actually want is just, it's so minimal now. It's ridiculous. And ultra rares aren't even guaranteed either from any of the packs, which is just mad. Really, really mad. And the final screen, as you can see, is just showing off new daily challenges. There was a special Apex mission on last week, and just like the previous special Apex mission, if you successfully completed it, you did get awarded an Apex Elite pack. I haven't yet opened that yet because I haven't yet done a pack opening video, but obviously that mission is no longer available. However, you still get the 2 daily challenges. These will obviously rotate daily, as the name suggests. Alright. Quite a long video today, but I decided to try and just do it in one part and see how it sits with you guys and girls. Let me know in the comment section below if you prefer it to be in 2 parts or if you're indifferent about the whole thing. But as I said, I will be posting some gameplay commentaries to AcornVision Gaming. They will feature Platinum gameplay. I will of course do a pack opening video sometime in the future as well. If you've got any thoughts you'd like to share with me about any of the stuff that I've talked about today, in my opinion, it's just a massive addition of crap and a lot of bloating, unnecessary bloating in my opinion. But that's just me. Let me know below if you've got any thoughts you'd like to share. So until next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, take care, and I will see you later.